Well, hello there, everybody, and welcome to a brand new edition of On to the Next One. We are live following a wild, wacky, and weird UFC 303 event, which ended with a sensational knockout, another one to the resume for one Alex Pereira. He remains the light heavyweight champion, knocks out Jiri Prochazka in the second round. The co-main event, absolutely bananas how we got to that fight. And the rest of the card kind of happened, and we'll discuss the futures of some of those fighters on today's program. And joining me, I'm Mike Heck, by the way, is the co-host, the co-matchmaker, the Prince of Positivity. It is my best friend, gosh darn it. He's Mr. Alexander K. Lee. AK,
Hi.
Good morning. Did you get any sleep?
It's me. I got a little bit of sleep, my best friend. Thank you for asking. This is why we're so close. But I didn't really need it. All I was doing was thinking about on to the next one the next day, thinking about the exciting Alex Pereira highlight that we got, yet another. The legend continues. And also what I actually thought was a pretty decent card. I saw a lot of people dragging it online, and justifiably so. I think we had at least a handful of fights that we were kind of like, either they weren't particularly entertaining or they felt just pointless. Like Dolidze Smith, I think, wasn't a fight anyone was asking for, and it played out in a pretty dull fashion. There was but we got some good early prelims. I think we got some great highlights. Like, this wasn't one of the best pay-per-views of the year, probably. It's like mid-tier, I guess, right in the middle. And I think if you spend 5 figures to see this card, if you were there live, probably wasn't the best time. But again, I think for those of us chilling at home and just tuning in, for what we got, I thought it was pretty good. It was pretty good. Again, not an amazing show, but good. I had a good time.
Yeah, it was fine. Like, Brock Lesnar said it on The Ultimate Fighter. The UFC made chicken salad out of chicken shit here. I mean, they really did. They lost the biggest star in the history of the sport in his return fight. They put together a fight that the build almost made us forget that Conor McGregor was going to be fighting because of all the spiritual stuff that happened. It just made things like really, really interesting. And then the Diego Lopez, Brian Ortega saga, although wasn't a tremendous look for Brian Ortega, at least that's how we reacted to it. It created something to talk about on Friday. And then freaking Dan Ige stepping in on like 3 hours notice to fight Diego Lopez, and the whole build and what the production team was able to do to pull that off and what both guys were able to do in that fight. Very, very cool. Incredible stuff. We got a finish in the women's bantamweight division, AK. I mean, not a lot of people saw that one coming, and that fight was actually a pretty entertaining main card fight. It was probably, maybe it wasn't the most entertaining, but it was up there. It was definitely more entertaining than the Machado Garry MVP and the Roman Dolidze Anthony Smith fight. Those two just beat the soul out of each other until the fight was over.
I've seen more good women's bantamweight fights in the last 2 years than I've seen heavyweight fights. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Yes. Andrei Arlovsky and Martin Buday. Perfect example. That fight happened. According to Dana White, that was Andrei Arlovsky's last fight.
We'll see.
And yeah, a whole bunch of stuff happened. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to matchmake for the main eventers, all the main card winners. We'll select a wild card, and then we'll do sort of a rapid fire fan submission round. So leave them in the comments when we ask for it. If we talk about a specific fight or a specific fighter, you can leave your comments in there. Super chatters get to the top. We'll throw comments up on the screen. We'll discuss. We'll get after it. And let's start with Alex Pereira, who, like we said, looked real good in this fight, despite coming in on 2 weeks' notice, despite coming in a little dinged up with the toe injuries. And he looked better than ever last night. He just kind of stifled Jiri Prochazka throughout this, landed a big knockdown in the final seconds of round 1. When Prochazka hit the ground, I thought the fight was over. But dude is an absolute demon and was able to at least get back to his stool. And then he got kicked into an oblivion literally seconds into round 2. Just, man, within a 10-second span of actual fighting action, those 2 knockdowns were absolutely brutal from Alex Pereira. And the last one was the end of the fight. Prochazka was in big, big trouble. The way he reacted after the knockdown, just some scary stuff. We hope he's okay. But now, AK, Alex Pereira is in a really interesting position because the UFC owes him a lot of favors right now. He is in a great standing with the company. And I kind of feel like Alex Pereira can choose his own story here. He can remain at light heavyweight. He could fight Magomed Ankalaev. He could fight somebody else in that division if he so chooses. Or he could say, F that. Let's go for history. I'm 36 years old. I'm here for a good time, not here for a long time, and go after that third belt. What do you think happens here? Like, it's a different thing, I think, for what we would like to see happen and what could actually happen. What do you think actually happens here?
It should be Magomed Ankalaev, it should be. And I think we've matched these two up several times on this show after Magomed's wins or after Alex Pereira's wins. It just makes the most sense. But Magomed has been on the shelf for a bit now. I'm not entirely sure Dana White knows who Magomed Ankalaev is, other than the guy who he feels like he had a terrible fight with Jan Blachowicz, which was not terrible at all. But so that hurts Magomed's chances. It wouldn't be the first time that Dana White has like blanked on a fighter and then just been like, and then the fight gets announced. We all know, again, he's not the guy who makes all these decisions, right? He has a whole team to inform him and to him. Yeah. Oh, by the way, Dana, this guy hasn't lost in whatever many years. He's a great style matchup for Pereira. We think he could beat Pereira. We think he could be the world champion. I mean, those are all selling points in Magomed's favor, and he should rightfully get the shot. And I had that immediately like penciled in as soon as the card ended. Then I said, what am I doing? Like, MMA is supposed to be fun. MMA is supposed to be fun. Screw it. Give him the Aspinall Blades winner. John Jones is not fighting either of these guys, as we know. I've given up on John Jones. John Jones is a coward. I don't need to go. I'm not going to go on a Jed Meshew rant. If you want a big elaboration on why John Jones is a chicken / coward / not GOAT, you can listen to any of Jed's appearances in between the links. But we can't wait around for John Jones. We don't know when the Stipe fight is happening. Presumably no later than the end of this year, we will finally see John Jones and Stipe step in there. But that's still a bit of, I think that's, again, if you're Aspinall, he has said many times, would love to fight John Jones. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. He's had, I think, the right attitude about it. We in the media have asked Aspinall about this 5 million times. I almost feel bad for him. But it is a relevant question, and he's going to keep here. If God help, if Aspinall wins at UFC 304, it'll be another 6 months or however long it's to wait for John Jones. Are you going to fight John Jones? Do you want to fight John Jones? What will your legacy be if you don't fight John Jones? It sucks. It sucks that his legacy is very much tied to a guy who may never actually want to fight him. And then if Blades wins, I don't think John Jones can set a bet for that either. So you know what? Put John Jones away in his own special division. Maybe he retires if he beats Stipe. Maybe he doesn't. Either way, we can't. He's just not reliable. So Alex, you know who is reliable? Alex Pereira. Go right up to heavy. If he goes up to heavyweight, no more room fights. Get him a title shot.
First of all, shout out Left Lane for his amazing picking ability.
Ooh.
There's his matchups right there. Yuri Krylov, Lopez Ige Murphy, Dolidze Walker.
He didn't say his pick.
He said it on the post-fight show last night, so you can
Okay.
back and watch it. Gary Colby, Piper Curtis, Felix Silva, Talbot Yanez, Lockdog Martinez. All good picks there.
I hope you made some money, Left Lane. I hope you made some money, my friend.
I really do want to see the Ankalaev fight because I actually think Pereira could beat him. Like, I really think he beats him. I would pick Pereira right now to win because he's just so dangerous, man. He just needs to land one. He needs to land one, and the fight is over. Like, it just doesn't matter who you are. Mm-hmm. He just needs one. So it is a fascinating matchup, and Alex's game just continues to evolve. We see his takedown defense getting better and better and all of that. Having said that, I almost feel like Pereira he's not quite in Kevin Holland territory, but he's kind of close because we just never know when he's going to fight. He could headline in Manchester next month and we just don't know it against some random dude. Like, something might happen with like Leon or Bilal and they just bump him up. Like, he could just fight at any time at this point. But so here's what I'm going to go with right now. It's almost a no answer, but I'm going to say my pick is John Jones. My pick is John Jones because one of two things is going to happen. One, John Jones is going to fight Stipe. And if that fight actually takes place, John Jones is going to kill him. That fight is not going to be competitive. John is going to run that dude over. And then what is John Jones going to do? I was going to retire, but instead I want to fight Alex Pereira because if Alex beats me, he's the GOAT, which if you ask Dana White, he will say that is absolutely ridiculous. The other option is Stipe just doesn't make it to Madison Square Garden. And a world happens where, let's say it's UFC 304 fight week. Dana White gets on Instagram, yells into his cell phone. It's official. Jon Jones, Stipe, main event, Madison Square Garden. It's happening. We tried to book it last year. This year's the year. Jon is healthy and ready to go. He's going to fight Stipe, the greatest pound-for-pound fighter on planet Earth, the greatest pound-for-pound fighter of all time versus the greatest heavyweight of all time. Let's do this. Madison Square Garden. And then October, September rolls around, and we find out Stipe can't fight. Injury happens, but who comes in to save the damn day? Alex Poatan Pereira, in a fight that is even bigger, even more fascinating than this fight that Dana in the UFC continues to shove down our throats that nobody wants to see, nobody cares about, and certainly doesn't need the heavyweight title on the line. So I'm going to say Jon Jones. I'm just going to say Jon Jones. I think he's going to do it. And if Jon wins, I think he's going to call for Pereira. And if you're Pereira, how in the blue hell could you turn that down? And if Stipe can't make it to MSG, they're going to call Pereira because Jon's not going to fight Tom Aspinall. He's certainly not going to fight Curtis Blades if Blades beats Aspinall. And Tom Aspinall is going to have to sit there potentially as the interim champion with an interim championship title defense under his belt and watch the light heavyweight champion go up and fight Jon Jones. It's crazy, but this is the UFC in 2024. So, but I do want to see I do want to see the Ankalaev fight. If they make that fight, I will not complain one bit. I am fascinated by it. So good win for Alex Pereira. And I do want to see Ankalaev kind of get his day because I think it's a really interesting fight.
Yeah, I don't think either of us are like officially picking Ankalaev just because
it
makes too much sense, but also gosh, Pereira has options. And I think the scenario you laid out is also this has been a pretty chaotic year. Not like I will say definitely one of the most chaotic years, not the most chaotic year we've seen in MMA, but it's up there. It is worth mentioning for sure. I've seen people asking like injury wise, has this been the worst? Like we've had worse before. I think people forget there was a time when I think the UFC lost like 12 straight main events. It was 12 straight main events and co-main events. It was crazy. And like they weren't like McGregor Chandler level, but it was and I think this was before COVID. I want to say like 2019, 2018. There was a rough time when the UFC was by that point they had already expanded to doing something like 34 40 shows a year. Like they were already expanding, and with expansion came like some bumps, but so it's up there, and certainly anytime McGregor's involved and Jon Jones is involved and their fights are getting pushed back and delayed and all that, it adds to that element of chaos. But we've seen worse before. I would love to see like Aspinall and Pereira as well. Apologies to Curtis Blades. I know we kind of keep cutting Curtis Blades out of this equation, but frankly, win or lose, he's not. I don't think there's any circumstance where he fights Pereira or Jon Jones. Aspinall Jones is big. We all want to see it. I think Pereira and Jones is the biggest fight the UFC can make right now that doesn't involve McGregor, obviously.
I think that fight might be bigger than Conor Chandler.
I'm just thinking of mainstream level, right? When we talk about like mainstream and like pure buys, I don't think anything beats a McGregor versus.
I think it's close. I think it's close.
I don't know.
Connor's still. It's close. It's still going to do better, but like I'd say Conor Chandler does like 1.5, but I think Jon and Pereira with the proper build.
Yeah.
If it's not like 2 weeks notice, I think it goes close to 1 million.
Oh, it clears 1 million. It clears 1 million. I think it clears 1 million. Yeah. If they build it right, it clears 1 million. But yeah, just again, we always say McGregor's on another tier, and I don't think like again, I have lost so much interest in McGregor Chandler. I'll be locked in when it happens, but it's one of those fights like if it doesn't happen, I honestly don't care. Though I will say I feel that way about McGregor in general now. If he never fights again, I will feel nothing has been lost. But that's from us who are so locked into the product, have had our fill of McGregor. From a mainstream standpoint, he's still the biggest star. I do think any fight with him is the biggest. But outside of McGregor, Jon Jones and Alex Pereira would just be insane and something the UFC could really hang its hat on as far as like, hey, we give the fans the fights that they want. They could point to that for the next 20 years saying, hey, we got you this one. Don't say we don't give you the big fights. We gave you the biggest fight we could make. And just don't mention Francis Ngannou.
Shout out to Joshua for commenting a lot on here. And I got to say, of all the comments that I've seen today, there is not one correct thing he said here.
Oh,
Literally not one thing. Everything he said here is wrong. Because let me just lay this out for you. Alex doesn't need to do anything. Whatever he wants, he's going to get. He has in such a position right now. He does not need to chill. He does not need to fight Ankalaev. And Jones and Aspinall is never happening. That fight is never going to happen. All right, Joshua? I'm sorry. John does not see it. 99% it's not going to happen. I'll leave it 1%. Maybe Tom Aspinall just becomes a huge star, and then John's just like, okay, I can make a lot of money with this dude. But everything else about that statement is just wrong. Alex does not need to do anything. All he needs to do is decide what he wants, and the UFC just has to do it. So that's kind of the position that he's in. And we'll see. Like I said, if Ankalaev is booked against Pereira, I want to see it. Like, I want to see that fight. Is that one? The problem is, where do you put it? Where do you put it? Is it the co-main event at MSG? Because it's the Salt Lake City main event in October. It seems like a weird one for Salt Lake City, but if you're doing Pennington Pena as the co-main, you could, I guess, throw that in there. I don't know. Is it December if Conor doesn't fight? Like, you have to find a spot. Right now, you're looking at Pereira fighting in 2025 right now, just based on the schedule, unless he fights in October for that Salt Lake City card that's not been officially announced yet. So there you have it. Let's move on to the other half of this main event. It is Jiri Prochazka, who gets knocked out badly. I mean, this is a really bad knockout. Shout out to Jiri for taking this fight on short notice. Shout out to Jiri for building this fight in such a big way with spiritual talk. But it seems like Alex Pereira cheated once again and tapped into the spirits, and maybe Jiri should do the same. Moving forward, Jiri went to social media and sort of had a reaction to the fight and basically said, like, my game needs to evolve, or I'm just not going to fight anymore, or I shouldn't fight anymore. But I just don't see a world where Jiri Prochazka just doesn't fight again. I do think he needs to take some time. I think he's the guy that does need to chill for a little bit. And it lines up perfectly for the bit. Because I was going to come on here and joke around and say there's only one fight you can make for Alex Pereira. And it's not Ankalaev, it's not John Jones. You got to do the rematch with Jamal Hill. And I was going to be completely joking around. But I will say Jiri Prochazka versus Jamal Hill is probably the fight to make. Because we don't know how long Jamal Hill is going to be out for. I would hope Yuri's going to take a pretty significant amount of time off. And Jamal Hill seems to have superhero-like healing abilities for his injuries. Came back from an Achilles in 9 months, which is just unheard of. So, yeah, I'm going with Jiri Prochazka versus Jamal Hill, because after Jamal Hill won the belt against Glover Teixeira, that was one of my more anticipated fights of the year, was doing Jamal Hill versus Jiri Prochazka for the undisputed light heavyweight title. And then Jamal gets hurt and has to vacate. So now we could just do it. We could just do it now. What do you think?
No. Jamal doesn't deserve it. Jamal doesn't deserve it. This guy, his persona is so aggravating. It's not even, there's people in MMA who I say, like, their personas are like deplorable, and, like, I'll criticize them from a moral standpoint. And you can certainly do that with Jamal as well. But just the way he's handled his interactions with fans and stuff, it's so embarrassing. I saw him talking to James Lynch, and he was saying, like, wow, people, like, fans really stopped, like, criticizing me, like, after I sent out that $20,000 like come to the gym and fight me challenge. And it's like, if there was any drop in comments about you, Jamal, it's because people saw that and rolled their eyes and walked away, and just don't. That made people care less about you. That was one of the worst. Such a terrible idea. It did not. I know he thinks he's trolling the trolls, like, and that's like, oh, we're talking about it, and anytime people are talking about it, that's great. Well, according to him, like you said, he's been getting trolled less. I don't think that was his goal. I think he was hoping to get himself 50,000 more Twitter followers or something. It didn't work. It was stupid. He is very bad at this. So no, he doesn't deserve the Jiri Prochazka fight. It would be a great fight. He certainly could beat Jiri Prochazka and vice versa. I mean, Jiri would be favored, but I think no more than minus 170. I wouldn't think Jiri would be a 2-1 favorite. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm underestimating Jiri and how much faith people have in him, despite the 2 losses to Pereira. But I think he'd be like, wouldn't be 2-1. I think people would definitely be giving Jamal a chance. So no, he doesn't deserve it. I went with Khalil Roundtree instead. I know he's got this murky drug test situation. I know it doesn't have the punch of a Jamal Hill Jiri Prochazka matchup. The build would not be nearly as loud. But I like I said, Yuri's taking some time off. Khalil's got to sort out this whatever happened with this possibly tainted supplements. I don't know. Maybe I just like Khalil. I do believe it's a tainted supplement thing, but I have no. That's just speculation. I have no whatever evidence on that. And yeah, great fight. Someone's getting knocked out, and I still am very curious with Khalil. Is he a top 5 guy? Is he a top 10 guy? He certainly can be. He had a habit of sort of losing big fights before, but now he's on this great run, and it's unfortunate this thing happened. So I would love to see him get another chance and leapfrog Jamal Hill for this chance to get one of the top 2 guys at 205.
Let me just be perfectly clear here. My first choice in the matter, if everybody was healthy and happy and they just, all of this happened and Yuri could fight in 2 or 3 months, I would pick Khalil Roundtree. But I just don't know if the timelines are going to line up.
We don't know. Yeah.
I feel like both those guys are going to be out for a minute. So that's like the main reason why I'm putting these 2 guys together more than Merritt, because boy, oh boy, it's been a tough go for Jamal Hill. Him and Joaquin Buckley. It's just, I mean, I don't know. They need to take some classes, man. They need to take some classes on how to just be better at this, how to do the thing. Because I don't even know if they're trying to do the thing, but they're doing whatever the opposite of doing the thing is. But we'll see what happens with Jiri Prochazka. Let's move on to the co-main event. Diego Lopez defeats, not Brian Ortega, defeats Dan friggin' Ige. And let me just say this. How in the blue hell did Dana White not give Diego Lopez and Danny Ige a fight of the night bonus? This whole thing of we gave it to Cub Swanson, Andre Fili, but no other fight warranted a fight of the night bonus. Are you shitting me? How did these guys not get a fight of the night bonus? That was probably the best fight of the night. They did it on 3 hours notice. Danny Ige comes back and wins the 3rd friggin' round. I mean, I'm sure they got paid a much more in the back end, but still, like, you gotta put these dudes over and give them a bonus and put their pictures on Twitter and on the performance bonus banners. Like, I kind of felt like they deserved a bonus, but regardless, Diego Lopez looks good, wins first 2 rounds, loses the 3rd. I think we saw, I mean, it's just like a lot of people are saying like, Diego's really good, but I think we see some chinks in his armor, if you will, some holes in his game, I guess, but it's really tough to say that when Diego had to deal with literally everything he had to deal with this whole week, from the Ortega having to move the fight up and Ortega, him being on weight. Basically had to weigh in 3 times this week. And then he takes a short notice fight literally within 3 hours and goes out there and wins the fight. So shout out to both guys. Danny Ige is going to move up in the rankings for me. Diego Lopez is certainly going to move up in the rankings for me. But where does Diego Lopez go, AK? Where does he go from here?
A few things about the fight. I don't want to pick off for too long, but I think they covered it on the broadcast, but I wish the commentary team had pushed a little bit harder. Because they're kind of like, oh wow, how isn't it kind of surprising that Danny Ige is the one with the energy in the 3rd and that Lopez is the one who was tiring? And I'm like, no, it wasn't surprising. He got a call at 3:30 in the morning on Thursday that they're having a weight class change, so that must have been fun. Great for the sleep schedule. He had to put on weight after cutting down to, I heard something like 100. He was around 146, 147. He was down at featherweight. He had cut the weight. It's a grueling cut. It's tough. So he had cut weight and then was told, oh, well, now don't worry. You're not cutting weight. No, so you had to put on weight, rehydrate, put on like 10 pounds for the scale. And then had to put on more, I guess not put on, probably just whatever, recuperate. And probably cut down a little bit again. I wonder if by fight night, I know he thought he was fighting Ortega, but I do wonder where the weight was. I don't know what he steps into the cage at. Anyway, the whole thing is so screwed up. So yes, he was tired. His 48 hours before his fight were just completely insane. Of course, he was more tired. Dan Ige, yes, not under the best circumstances, but has been training for a fight. Did not have to cut weight. Got to stroll in at 165 or 164, whatever it was. So yes, I'm not surprised Diego Lopez was a little more tired.
And the mental part of all of it.
Oh my God.
On top of that.
It's like 100 times the physical effect. And then I also saw people, I tweeted like, how is this legal? Sort of as a joke and sort of also like, how is this legal? Like genuinely asking. And I know, I get it. And the NSAC provisions kind of pretty much say the first rule is there are no rules. Like UFC or any promotion in Las Vegas can do pretty much whatever they want. And then some of Ige's medicals are still valid from the time he most recently fought. Okay, I understand all that. And then people are thinking like, oh, why do you hate fun? I'm like, I love fun. I love stupid stuff happening. I'm glad the fight was made. I'm glad both guys very likely got paid. But we do have to ask, what a weird precedent to set, guys. Like, I don't think this is going to happen again anytime soon. It would surprise me. But now that we know the UFC can do something like this, it opens a very bad door, guys. It opens a very bad door. This is not the sort of thing that should be happening regularly on UFC shows. And again, I don't think it will. As a one-time thing, super fun, great for Ige and Lopez. But it's okay to question it, guys. You don't have to take everything the UFC gives you. You don't have to just be like, wow, the UFC can do anything. How amazing. You should also question the mechanisms under which these things happen. Okay, guys, keep your product to a certain quality, please. But we got a great fight. And the last thing is, Mike, don't forget Ray Cerrulla and Carlos Hernandez, who I thought,
yeah, it was a good fight.
That's one of my favorite fights of the year. I know it kind of slowed down a little in the third. That's one of my favorite fights of the year. That should have, if they were going to give, he should have given 3 fight of the night bonuses, Lopez and Ige, and then also Cerrulla and Hernandez. But I'm 90% sure he did not see the Cerrulla Hernandez fight and thus could not comment on it. So that's, you know what, Dana, you didn't see it. You can't comment on it. You didn't want to give it. It didn't get a bonus. Fair enough. But those boys grappled.
That's a good
that fight was fun as hell. I love that fight. I thought that should have gotten a fight of the night. I thought that was better than Felix Swanson. Anyway, Yair. Very easy pick for me. Yair at the Sphere, or if it can't take place at the Sphere, I still want to see it. But that was my pick for Diego last time he won a fight. I'm standing by that. I like that more than the Ortega matchup, and I think they should go with that.
If they book Yair, sign me the hell up. I'm good for that. I went a little bit of a different direction because, I mean, I would guess they already have something sort of in mind for Yair. I don't know what it is, but I would imagine that as we're getting closer to this and as they're putting this card together, they've probably already reached out to Yair and like, we would like you to fight this person. So I would guess he's got something going now. Now, could the UFC just swap him around and still do this fight? Sure. But they could have their cake and eat it too and put him in different fights and then set up a future matchup. So I went with Josh Emmett. Diego Lopez versus Josh Emmett at the Sphere in September. Let Lopez have his moment. Josh Emmett's a great opponent. One of two things is going to happen. Either we're going to learn some lessons about Diego Lopez and he's going to have to go back to the drawing board, or Diego Lopez will have a moment like Ilia Topuria had in Jacksonville where he just beats the brakes off Josh Emmett and Josh is shoe leather tough to the point where he could take it. And then it becomes just more of a 15-minute showcase for Diego Lopez. And Josh Emmett always has that ability to just dead you with one big shot. So I like that fight. But I mean, as Jed likes to say, there's no wrong way to eat this Reese's. Diego Lopez versus any top 10 featherweight will do. And if they want to do the Movsar rematch, fine. There's just no way Movsar's going to the Sphere to fight a guy he already beat not that long ago. So there you go. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Give him a top 10 dude. If it's Yair, awesome. If it's Josh Emmett, awesome. If it's anybody else, cool. I'm in. Let's go to Roman Dolidze, AK. This is an interesting one because this man come Tuesday is going to be a ranked fighter in 2 divisions. He's going to be ranked at middleweight and he's probably going to be ranked at light heavyweight after beating Anthony Smith in a pretty forgettable 3-round fight. But shout out to Roman Dolidze, takes a fight on short notice, gets after it, gets a win over a one-time title challenger. And I believe he called out Hamzat Chimaev. I don't know for sure.
Yeah, I think that's
did he call Hamzat? There's zero chance he's getting that fight. So I went Jared Cannonier. Back
to middleweight.
Yeah, there were reports that Cannonier was going to fight Kevin Holland in Denver. I'm here to tell you that that fight was never on the table. Cannonier's side was never even approached about that fight. Also, because the big reason why is Cannonier just got knocked out. He just got stopped by Nasruddin Imavov, and he's suspended. He is medically suspended, and that fight just happened. Like, it just happened not that long ago. So by the time it's something I think Dolidze can turn around relatively quickly. We throw it somewhere in the summertime, maybe like August or, September at some point. Just do Roman Dolidze versus Jared Cannonier. Like, what the hell? Sure.
I just want to shout out first Left Lane. He was saying, he said, no matchup for Ige. What do you mean? He's fighting in 3 weeks. Isn't he fighting? He's booked. Dude. He's booked.
Yeah, he's fighting Chepe Mariscal. Come on.
He's fighting Chepe. That fight was not officially canceled or postponed for the record, guys. Like I said,
he's still fighting. He's fighting July 20th. Get out of here. Come on. He's fighting.
I think if you go to UFC.com, that fight is still on there. So I'm just saying, officially it's still on. Maybe they should update that.
They kept Ihor Potieria on the lineup after he got absolutely destroyed by Michel Pereira.
That was really funny.
And then he wasn't, but still.
And then he wasn't. And I assume Ige the same thing. They'll update that a bit. But I'm sure if you ask Ige, he's probably like, yeah, I'm ready to go. Throw me in. So we'll see what the commission says. But the commission just let him fight on 5 minutes notice. So I don't know. What are we talking about again, Mike? Oh, yes, Roman Dolidze. Big props to Roman, by the way, for his awareness of like saying, hey, I'm a 2-division threat now. Like I'm like, yeah, he really is. Like he's not ranked in our MMA Fighting Global rankings. He has been ranked at 185. He has previously been ranked at 205. UFC.com, the only, this matters a lot to these fighters. They have Roman at 10 at middleweight going in, and he just beat the number 10 light heavyweight Anthony Smith. So technically, yes, this guy is going to be top 10 in 2 divisions according to the UFC's rankings. So amazing stuff. Like, what a weird opportunity for Roman to jump on, and kind of smart. Like, not that Anthony Smith's an easy opponent, but I think it was a really good matchup for him. And again, the circumstances of it being like sort of short notice, that just throws everything up into the air. And if you're Roman, you're just like, man, this is my opportunity. I can take advantage. I can fight probably not as best Anthony Smith, and I'm not at my best, but I still think I'm good enough to beat him. And he did. A really convincing victory. I want him to stay at light heavyweight, Mike. It's kind of weird. He's 3-0 at 205. He started off his career in the UFC at light heavyweight, beat a couple of, non-ranked guys, but 2-0. Made the wise choice, I think, dropped to 185. He's not a huge guy. I think he kind of looks ahead to guys like, I don't know, like an Ankalaev somewhere down the road, which is like dwarf him. So obviously he's avoiding fights like that. And that's smart. But now that he's in the top 10, forget the weight cut, Roman. It's not fun to cut weight. Stay at 205. Jamal Hill deserves this fight, Mike.
Oh my
this God. Is the fight we should have for Jamal Hill. And I'm doing this.
I don't know if they would fight each other, though.
They probably wouldn't. I don't like Jamal
because I know Jamal does work at Extreme Couture, which is where Roman Dolidze trains in the States. So I don't know what kind of relationship those two guys have, but I mean, shit, Roman Dolidze was going to fight Michel Pereira, and they both trained together.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it could happen. I apologize. You're right.
No, and that's a good thing to note because if they've worked together, there's a chance that. But I think they would if the opportunity came along. I don't think Jamal Hill would be that interested. But again, we're trying to. He doesn't deserve it, but we're trying to help Jamal Hill because he just needs to get a win again. He needs to get a win again. This happens, and this is not just him. A lot of fighters, when they're just talking a lot and getting slagged on social media in the public, you win a fight. All is forgiven. All is forgiven. All is forgiven. You get a knockout. Don't worry about it. Don't worry all the stupid stuff you said on social media. Double down on that stupid stuff on social media. You're a winner. You can say whatever you want. This goofball needs to win a fight. I think getting him in there with Roman, it's a winnable fight for him. And if he loses to Roman, I just think that'd be hilarious. So either way, I'm laughing. But yes, let's Jamal, whenever this his mutant healing factor kicks in again, if you're Dolidze, see if you can get that fight. And then imagine Dolidze beats him. It's like a top 5 guy at 205. Just be weird. So my whole idea is I want Roman to stick around at 205. And I think he deserves a ranked guy next. And I think Jamal's the one that makes sense in a very strange way.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. Yeah, we'll see if he stays at 205. Boy, I mean, we know that the division needs something. Maybe Roman Dolidze is a guy that adds much needed depth to the 205-pound division.
3-0.
Speaking of divisions that need or may not need depth, AK, let's go to the women's bantamweight division. Big win for Macy Chiasson. Fun fight for as long as it lasted. They get after it round 2. Macy gets on top, lands the elbow from hell. A Marvin Eastman-like cut over the eyebrow of Mayra Bueno Silva. We knew as soon as we saw it that fight was going to get stopped. Macy Chiasson wisely was like, all right, stand up. And as soon as she stood up, referee stops the fight. Doctor takes a look at it. Mayra Bueno Silva, try as she may, try to keep the fight going. Even jumped out of the cage and bled all over Dana White. It was scenes. But Macy gets a big win. She gets the stoppage over someone who many of us at MMA Fighting felt was the best bantamweight in the world not that long ago. And now Mayra Bueno Silva has lost 2 fights in a row. And Macy Chiasson on a nice little run. She's probably going to be the number 3 ranked women's bantamweight in the world come Tuesday. This is a pretty easy pick for me. It's Ketlen Vieira. I mean, we've already tried to book this one. I mean, I don't even know who he needs a friends forever moment here. They don't even need it.
No.
She's not fighting Kayla Harris is not fighting Macy Chiasson. There's nobody else else. There's nobody
Mike,
else for her to fight.
Like the band is super rusty. I don't know. I think they haven't played in like 3 months or
All
something.
right. 1, 2, 3. Friends forever.
Forever.
Yes, Zach Attack is back, Jack. There you go. Yeah, that's the fight. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, rebook it. They're supposed to fight in January. Caitlin had some sort of injury, but by the time Macy is ready to go again, hopefully Caitlin will be too. I'm really happy for Macy. I just think like she's never been able to get over the hump. She's had a lot of opportunities. I really liked her coming out of the Ultimate Fighter. I really like a lot of fighters coming out of the Ultimate Fighter, but she was like a 135er with some finishing ability, and she showed some of that in her UFC career proper. So yeah, good for her. Very unfortunate for Mayra Bueno Silva. She definitely would have fought if she was allowed to. She does not care. She would have bled all over the cage, all over Dana White and Hunter Campbell at cage side. She was just bleeding all over the place. If she had a choice, I'm glad they didn't let her. So, yeah, Macy and Ketlin. Because if Kayla Harris is going to fight someone before she gets a teleshot, I'd rather the Eileen Perez thing. I think there's some heat there. I think that's really funny. But yeah, not Macy. I don't think that makes a lot of sense for Macy. Let Macy possibly earn a title shot, or Ketlin. Ketlin could earn a title shot. She's done a lot of good work at 135. So there you go.
God, I kind of wish Macy like cut a fiery promo on Kayla. That would have been pretty good. I know it's not in her DNA to really do that, but it would have been pretty awesome if she did. Like that would have been a really good time to do it, and she might even like have a chance to get that fight. But might be very wise to just go fight Caitlin Vieira, because I don't think a Kayla Harrison fight goes all that well for her. But I don't think Kayla Harrison fight goes all that well for really anybody in this division right now. Let's go to the other big storyline heading in and probably heading out of this card, AK, is the main card opener, welterweight fight. Ian Machado Garry putting his undefeated record on the line against Michael Venom Page. And we tried to tell you, everybody, we tried to tell you on all of our programs that we need to prepare ourselves for a world where this fight is just not good. It's not thrilling. It's not entertaining. We just need to prepare ourselves for what this could be. I will tell you this. I was still intrigued by it. And even as the fight played out, I was intrigued by watching it all because I wanted to see how it was going to go. Now, is it a fight we're going to go back and watch again? Absolutely not. Is this a fight Dana White put over big at the press conference? Absolutely not. But knowing sort of the different styles these guys present to each other, I had serious questions. This fight was going to go one of two ways. It was going to go either the same way Michael Page versus Kevin Holland went, or it's going to go very similar to the way Ian Garry versus Jeff Neal went. Now, it was a little bit different because Ian Garry had that big first round and took the fight to the ground, almost submitted Michael Page, clearly lost round 2. He had nothing on the feet for MVP at all. Nothing. And then round 3, Ian Garry was opportunistic, took the back, just kind of sat there for 2 minutes, landed little shots, and it won him the fight. So Ian Garry remains undefeated. It is very, very, very difficult to look good against MVP. Yes, Douglas Lehman knocked him out viciously, but even before that happened, MVP was looking damn good in that fight. And I thought MVP beat Logan Storley that night. So technically, to me, this is only the second time MVP has ever lost a fight, and he certainly didn't get run over in this one. But Ian Machado Garry, to me, gets the biggest win of his career. Very curious to see where you went with this one, AK.
Yeah, I didn't mind the fight. It did turn out, we did kind of warn people it might not be a barn burner, but I think you give it the best word, intriguing. It was intriguing, and it was not like entertaining in a different way. I thought we would get like some very tentative kickboxing, a lot of feints, feint fest for 15 minutes, nobody really landing anything interesting, and someone walking out with a splitty city win. Instead, we got a mixing of the martial arts, which I'm normally against, but like you said, intriguing. I was like, okay, Ian Machado Garry has talked a big game about his grappling. Pretty much any interview he's in, he's always like, I want to show off my grappling. I want to show like my grappling is like just as good as my striking, like if not better. I'm like one of the best jiu-jitsu guys out there. And it just was pretty good. Like it wasn't super exciting, I understand, but he did mix the martial arts well. I thought he earned the decision. So that was okay. Mike, I went nuts with this one. I don't know what happened. Keep in mind, I did these picks last night and not this morning. So this was before sleep. He has to go up in the rankings, I feel like. I know he fought a guy behind him. He has to go up in the rankings.
Do it, AK. Cue the band. Come on, AK.
There's almost no way we picked the same person because I know who you picked. I did not pick this person. I actually went technically even higher in the rankings.
I'm getting the band ready. Okay,
No,
I'm getting them ready.
A fight that no one is asking for, particularly the guy I'm picking. I think he gets. No. I think he fight. I want to see. I'm waving the magic wand. I want to see him fight Kamaru.
Put him away.
Sorry, I had already told the band. I took away their sheet music. I don't know. Like I said, I just randomly, I was like, I wanted to go. Like, I know you want Shavkat. I know you want to get killed by Shavkat. I know there's a chance I could not give him the Edwards Muhammad winner, not off that performance.
No.
Not that there's any perfect contender. We see fighters get title fights off of, like, sometimes weird, unsatisfying performances all the time. But I think the UFC is in a position where they don't have to do that with Ian Machado Garry. It's not like that's only when there's no other real choice and someone's done enough. I think he's done enough, but I think there are plenty of other compelling choices to get that title shot. So I couldn't go that far. Gilbert Burns, I think, is rumored for a fight. Also, they worked. I don't think he's going to fight Gilbert.
He's fighting Sean Brady. September.
He's fighting Sean Brady. Right. He's fighting Sean Brady. And again, I don't think he'd want to fight Gilbert anyway. I think he likes Gilbert a lot. So I had to go up the rankings, and I just landed on Kamaru again. When Kamaru comes back, I don't think he's going to want to fight Ian Machado Garry. That'd be a hell of a, like, maybe he's at the stage of his career where he's just going to be a hype buster. And maybe he just washes Garry like 30-26. I don't know. But I do think Ian Machado Garry, much like sort of Paddy Pimblett, is kind of not getting enough credit for how good he is just because he runs his mouth so much. And for sure, his skill level is not at, I think, where he claims it is and where he boasts that it is. But that doesn't mean he's not good. He's just not like the friggin' beast of a fighter that he claims he is. But he is very, very good. Is he a top 5 guy? I don't know. I would not pick him to beat Shavkat. I don't know if I hate him against Leon and Bilal. And Kamaru's just very interesting at this point just because he's been around for so long. And I mean, in his prime, would annihilate Ian Machado Garry. I don't think Kamaru's in his prime anymore. I'm just curious to see what happened there. And also just what Kamaru's going to do in the future. So this is a big fight for Kamaru if he wanted it. But I get it. Probably has other plans. Just wants big super fights and all that stuff.
Call me Jed Meshew because I'm going to fire out a hot take right now. Roman Dolidze has a better chance of fighting Kamaru Usman than Ian Garry does right now. I'll throw that out there. There's your answer. Shavkat. Just do it, man. Like, Shavkat's in. Like, Shavkat could sit and wait and get the winner of Leon versus Bilal. Like, he certainly could. But if he goes out there and just waxes up Ian Garry or something, like, that's huge for him. He will be like a fan favorite heading into this title fight. So he's got to stay busy. I love when JDM called him out. It made a ton of sense. But man, sometimes you just got to be careful what you ask for. You just might get it. And boy, that's just some sensational matchmaking right there. It just is. I want to see it. I want to see it. MVP is hard. It's impossible to look good against MVP. He's just one of those guys. You're never going to look good against him. Lima did knock him dead, but it was just a weird circumstance and a weird setup and a weird combination. But other than that, like, you just can't look good against him. So it was a solid win. It's fine. And let's go. Let's go. Let's just do it. Let's go to the wild card round. We'll select one fighter we've not match made for yet. We'll match make for him right now. Curious where you went with this, AK. Lots of options. Are you going with Ray here? Are you going with Ray?
No, I'm not going with Ray. I'm not going with Andrei Arlovski. I should have gone with Andrei Arlovski because I see a lot of people asking, is Andrei officially retired? We don't know. My guess is, Mike, do we know his contract situation? Could this have been the last fight on his current deal?
Maybe. I don't know.
Because if it is,
I probably should have reached out last night, but Dana said it was his last fight, but I don't know.
If it's the last fight in his contract, I could very much understand Dana just straight up saying, like, as far as we know, this is the last. We're not,
especially because as Jed has said and said it on Twitter last night, Andrei Arlovski might actually be the actual best prize fighter in MMA history, because that dude's making bank every time he fights, and he like just sits there and slogs his way through a 15-minute decision against guys who, for the most part, aren't tremendous fighters, and he's just making a bag doing it.
I would love to know his last disclosed payday, because we know he's one of those guys who came over from other promotions, and because of that, they had to like pay him a lot of money. Overeem had to say, like, Overeem came over and like it was on a contract he was making like $800,000 or something. I don't know if Arlovski is quite on that level. I'm just looking way back. For example, this is from March 2018. Supposedly he got $275,000 flat to fight Stefan Struve. 275 grand for a fight, which I guarantee almost none of you remember. Mike, sorry, you have a point, yes.
May 14th, 2020.
Oh.
There was a time. This is when the UFC was doing their residence in Jacksonville, Florida. COVID's happening. And the date is important because there was a time, my friends, and a lot of you newer fans may not be aware of this, but there was a time where Florida disclosed fighter pay. And in May of 2020, Andrei Arlovsky fought Felipe Lins in a matchup, and he made $325,000.
Good Lord. That is one of the most lucrative heavyweight fights like in history, because let's not Philippe was $1 million winner from the PFL. So this was a recent millionaire facing one of the greatest prize fighters this was like the McGregor and like Nate Diaz of heavyweight. This is crazy. Yeah, wow. 225 grand. And again, either that was, how many fights ago was that? He probably signed another contract since then. So I guarantee
it might even be more.
He's probably made at least $350,000.
Oh my God. He might be the best prize fighter of all time.
He definitely is. So if the UFC does not want to resign him and finally can get out of the yoke of the out from under the yoke of the Arlovsky contract, maybe now's the time. Now's the time to get out of there. So yeah, I wish I'd matched up for him. No, I went with Peyton Talbot. Did you go with young Peyton?
I did.
Okay, I'm curious. Yeah, I hoped you did. I actually normally if I guess like who you're going to pick, I'll go another way. I think you do the same thing. But I think we need a range of options here because I'm not sure what to do with this guy. Wickedly talented, unique personality, seems very mature for his age. And again, we say this with O'Malley all the time, and not to compare him to O'Malley again. I know he hates that, but not that he has a similar personality, but could appeal to a similar demographic. And if you're the UFC, you'll love that. So Talbot, super impressive. 19-second knockout of Giannis Gamori. Mike, I did a lot of talking. You're saying like, man, I can't believe he's such a big favorite. Like maybe you have $5, throw $5 on Giannis. I apologize to anyone who took that dumbass advice because you just burned $5. $5 that could have been spent on a nice fast food meal or something. You just burned $5. So I hope you didn't do that. But the odds were still crazy. But hey, maybe they weren't high enough. Like maybe Peyton should have been a minus 4,000 favorite based on how that fight played out. That was absolutely insane. I went really high. I want to test him now. I'm going up the rankings. I want to see if he's a top 25 guy. Top 25. The Chris Gutierrez, Javid Basharat loser. August 3rd, UFC Abu Dhabi. Whoever falls out of the fight, not the winner. I don't think you quite give him the winner. I am very high in the Basharat pros, both Javid and Farid. So I don't want to quite throw them in there if they win. But if Javid loses or if Chris Gutierrez loses, let's see. I normally hate throwing prospects out there too quickly. I'm probably overcompensating because I have doubted just how great this prospect supposedly is. But boy, off the high of a 19-second knockout, I went top 20. Give one of those two.
There are very few fighters that I will sit there and be like, all right, this is the dude. Usually I'm a little bit more patient on this. Like, obviously, the Arman Sarukians of the world, the Ikram Aliskerofs of the world. There are certain fighters that I watch and I'm just like, damn, this guy is super good. And Peyton Talbot, while fun on the Contender Series, I was just like, okay, he's like really green. There's something there, but it's going to take some time to develop. So he has his first fight, gets a win, and then he gets Cameron Simon. And I was just like, man, I think this is too quick, man. Like Cameron's a little more battle tested. I just don't love this fight. And then he just blew the doors off Cameron Simon. I was like, all right, I was dead wrong. Like he's not as green as I thought. This dude's incredibly talented. And then he did what he did yesterday. And I think I expected that to happen. I didn't think it would happen in 19 seconds, but I thought he was going to just 10-8, poor Giannis Gamori, and then just mercy kill him in round 2. But he just came out and just wrecked shop and did what a minus 1,600 favorite's supposed to do. So at this point, I think Peyton Talbot's in a great spot with the UFC. And I'm going to give him what he wants, AK. I'm going to give him exactly what he wants. He wants Adrian Yanez. I'm going to give him Adrian Yanez. Let's go. That fight's going to be super fun. It's a fight Adrian could certainly win. Adrian's very talented. Dude is vicious as hell. He's very well-rounded. He had a tough 2023, but he also, had a huge jump up in competition fighting a guy like Rob Font, which is not easy to do. Rob Font's just going to beat guys like that. And then he goes in there and fights. Who did he fight? Oh, Jonathan Martinez just destroyed his legs, man. And Jonathan Martinez obviously went on to fight Jose Aldo. And I mean, that's just what happens. So yeah, let's give it to him. Let's see what he does. Because even if he goes out and has a competitive fight and loses to Adrian Yanez, he's fine. He's fine. He's still relatively new to this sport. There would actually be kind of interesting to see how he would bounce back from a loss, especially a competitive ones against a guy as good as Adrian Yanez is. So yeah, let's throw him to the wolves. Let's see what he wants. He wants to fight Adrian Yanez. Go fight Adrian Yanez. Let's see what he can do. I love that fight.
Man, bantamweight is crazy. Bantamweight's
like very good.
We had Talbot, Loke Dog, fantastic great performances. Daniel Marcos is out there. The Basharat Bros. I'm sure there's people I'm forgetting. Like, there's just so much talent in this division. Brady Easton's looking pretty good. I'm not saying he's gonna be like a crazy guy. Rinya Nakamura. God, what a division. And again, this is just a prospect. I'm just talking about the guys who are already like top 15 guys who still have plenty of years in them. This is a division. It is impossible to climb to the top.
This is interesting. I thought about this one for a second. What do you think of Peyton Tao versus Cody Garbrandt? Too soon?
No.
What do you mean no?
I just don't want to. I don't like it for Cody. I'm not a sicko like all you guys. I didn't want to see Cody fight Figueiredo, and it happened. I don't want to see.
Who do you want Cody Garbrandt to fight?
No one. No one. He's done. Alatang Haile. I don't know. I know he has so much of a name. It feels like you cannot put Cody in random fights. It's just like he has a name. But boy, that name, that winning that title is just a curse for him at this stage in his career, because he should get a chance to sort of reset himself, but he never will. He'll never get that chance to reset. It's always going to be people gunning for him because of his name, and it's going to be killers like Peyton Talbot. And I don't need to see that for Cody, but I get it. I understand.
Yeah. And listen, by the way, no one in this space has been driving the Yanez versus Garbrandt train for longer than I have, but I've officially left the wheel. I've been trying to get Yanez versus Garbrandt for like 2 years now, and I just don't think it's going to happen right now. I don't know what's going on with Cody, but yeah, let's go. All right. So we have like 10 minutes because I got to get out of here.
All right.
I'm gonna get booted out of this spot.
Well, I do want to do a quick happy trails to Michelle Waterson Gomez. Yes. We don't need to wax poetic on her career. UFC did a great job having a video prepared. It's a little sad because I do feel like maybe they felt the writing was on the wall, and they thought she was going to lose, or they just had the video loaded up for whenever she did lose. But yes, a true pioneer of this modern generation of women's fighters. And I'm sure there'll be haters out there. It's like, sometimes, whatever. She slumped in the late stage of her career. She's 38 years old, guys. Some people have forgettable. She's had a few forgettable fights here and there. I understand, but overall, boy, her body of work is so strong, and her impact on the women's side of the business is so strong. And she's a gamer, man. She fought everyone, and I'm happy that she's retiring. Sad to see her go. Happy that she's retiring, and seems to have a lot of good health and good things in her future. So peace out, Michelle Waterson Gomez.
And important to know, as we talked about in the post-fight show, she did it up a weight class. She's an atomweight. She's not a strawweight.
Yeah,
she's an atomweight. And she still had a very successful, long career with the UFC. So happy trails to Michelle Waterson. Potentially happy trails to Andrei Arlovsky as well.
Don't you dare.
At least from UFC competition, according to Dana White. Maybe happy trails to Cubby Swanson. We don't know.
4 more years.
I'm
not done with Andre.
So there we go. All right. Fiery matchmaking suggestions.
Oh, yes,
we're going to rapid fire them. Let's go. Get them in. Left lane we got already. So let's go. The clock is ticking. Let's see what you got. Jan says Michelle Waterson versus Paige in Power Slap.
Oh, Tristan was ready. Look at Tristan. Tristan jumped. Yes, yeah, there you go, Tristan. He was waiting. He was waiting for the call, Mike. He waited for the call.
All right, there's Tristan. I just want to check something real quick. See if Tristan got a little bit of doo-doo on him.
I'll read these out while you check.
No doo-doo, so you're good.
Okay. Jillian Robertson, Jacqueline Amarim, Peyton Talbot, Victor Henry. I thought about that too. I wonder, do you go an older veteran guy with less, who's not, who doesn't have a lot of UFC experience? Like Victor would fit that bill perfectly. Not that it matters the UFC experience. I'm not saying Victor's like a rookie or something. I'm saying like this would be a tough fight. Tristan says, didn't mind his call it if Yanez Henry's the tougher test, tough to finish. Yeah, in some ways, Victor Henry would be the tougher test, but I think Yanez is the way to go.
Why in the world would Jillian Robertson fight Jacqueline Amorim? Why? Ranked fighter, just beat the soul out of Michelle Watterson. Why would she take such a step back in the rankings?
Fun matchup.
To fight a relatively unknown fighter.
Fun matchup.
Yeah, it's fun. Like, no. Beating Corey McKenna is not enough to get her a ranked opponent, in my opinion.
Crazy Pato says it's a shame Orlovsky didn't get a good vibe promo for the UFC. He's been fighting more than some people working a 9 to 5. You don't give a good vibe promo to people who aren't retiring, guys. So why would he get a good vibe promo? He's gonna fight 50 more times.
Jesse wants Anthony Smith versus Johnny Walker 2. Why? You want to see that again? That was not a good fight.
I'm gonna
first time.
I'm gonna pass on that one.
Reyes versus Jiri 2. God, I don't know if I want to see that either. That was one of the more that was
nasty.
That was one of the top 5 most scary knockouts in the history of the UFC. I thought Jiri killed Dominic Reyes that night. I was concerned that he killed him.
I think that had long lasting effects on Dominic Reyes.
Yeah.
Big time.
Don't know if I want to see that. Maybe we slow it down. Dominic Reyes got his first win in forever. Maybe we slow it down a little bit. Let's see. Bleezy. Oliveira versus Munoz. Sure. Robertson versus Ricci. We're missing a 2 there.
Bleezy. And wait a minute.
We just saw this fight a year ago.
Yeah, I think this is just an accident. I don't think that was 2 fights ago, right? That was 2 fights ago.
It was in Jacksonville. It was in June of last year. It was literally a year ago.
Yeah, no, we can't do that. And that makes no sense for Tabitha Ricci right now.
Silva versus Onama. Sure. Talbot versus Garbrandt. Pfeiffer versus Chris Curtis. Pfeiffer calling out Paul Craig because he doesn't like his face.
Good. That's a great reason to call someone out. I approve.
Joe Pfeiffer just getting after it. Garry versus Shafkat. MVP versus Luque. Luque's booked against Michael Chiesa. Macy versus Holm. It's not a bad shout, actually.
Not a bad shout at all.
It's actually not a bad shout.
Not at all.
Lopez versus Yair. Reebok Ortega. I don't think Ortega is a featherweight anymore. Poatan versus Volkov at heavyweight. I would love to see them just throw Alex Pereira. I threw out Alex Pereira versus Derek Lewis. Just get him in there and have some fun.
Belt or bust. Give me a title fight. But yeah, whatever. If you fight anyone heavyweight, it's a hilarious time. I want to say the Oliveira Munoz thing is very indicative of what you're talking about, Mike. Like, there's a lot of young, like older guys still at the top, and these young guys are coming for them. Like, they are just coming for them. So
Reyes versus Jiri is good. One of them needs to win. Dominic Reyes just won. He just won.
He needs another win, Mike. He needs another win. That's a fair comment.
Won a month ago.
He needs another win. That's a fair comment. So people asking what's next for Jean Silva. He missed weight, so we're not going to talk about Jean Silva. We'll take your suggestions, but we're not.
Touche. He beat the shit out of Charles Jourdain last night. That was impressive, but you got to make weight,
good.
bro.
He's great. You got to make weight.
Lopez versus Ige 2 in the Sphere.
Run it back.
I mean, I'd watch. Hashtag would watch. Yuri versus Nikita Krylov. Machado versus Covington. I have no interest in this anymore. I don't want to see it. Zero interest in that fight.
I'm still into it.
You're still into it?
Yeah, I'm still into it. And I think Machado Garry beats him.
Reyes just needs to see a shaman.
Yeah, big time.
He did because he knocked out Dustin Jacoby. Come on.
Yeah. Well, yeah, whatever magic you're working, Dominic Reyes, keep that up.
Pipe versus Robocop beats Duncan. Ige versus Yair. Lopez versus Emmett at the Sphere. Ige versus Yair is fun as hell. I'd watch that fight.
I think he should get. I was gonna say Ortega, but I don't know. I don't know what's going on with Ortega now. Very strange week for this.
I guess y'all missed the post-fight press conference. Dana Sterlovsky.
No, we saw it.
Same thing.
We've
just been saying the same thing. What are you talking
about? Mike, we forgot. Dana said.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot. Dana said, and Dana always tells the truth. Is always accurate when he's talking about fighters' careers. Is never wrong. Guys, it wouldn't surprise. Obviously, he should be surprised a year he retired in the last fight in his contract, and he's not getting re-signed. Of course, he's probably going to retire. I mean, I don't know any other promotion that's going to give him near like $250,000. But guys, we talked about. We saw Dana's comments. That's why we're even mentioning that he's and joking about him being retired. But Arlovski himself did not indicate that he's retired, did not even come close to looking like he was leaving the gloves in the cage. Maybe we'll see a statement by the time the show's done recording. Maybe we'll see a statement later this week. Maybe he is really done. Again, and then maybe at the very least, his UFC contract is up. We don't know. But
yeah,
Dana says a fighter is retired is not indicative of the reality. We just don't know. We don't know. So wait to hear from Andre first, guys, before you're like, oh, Dana said this. Wait to hear from Andre. Why are we so impatient? I don't understand.
He said people should have retired for like, he said Tony Ferguson should be retired for like 3.5 years now. And he's still booking Tony Ferguson fights. Bogdan versus Dolidze, winner gets Hill. Don't mind that. Love Piper versus RoboCop.
Yeah, I would love to see Piper and Gregory Rodriguez. Yeah.
I figured we're going to get a whole bunch of these.
Yeah.
I don't want to see it.
We kind of just saw a version of it.
In a way, but I mean, it's literally going to be two dudes just doing the same thing, and there's going to be like 11 strikes thrown in the entire fight.
Can he do
Both guys have said it. Like, this is they're like, guys, I don't know why you want this so much. This is going to be a very boring fight. The fighters themselves are telling you that it's going to be a boring fight.
So that was MVP Wonder Boy, right?
MVP Wonder Boy.
Oh, sorry, I meant to ask.
Oh, Ian Garry Wonder Boy. I'm sorry.
Yeah, one of them
I screwed that whole thing up.
No, you showed both. I think one of them was MVP Wonder Boy, and one of them was Garry Wonder Boy. What do you think of Garry Wonder Boy?
I think Garry smokes him.
Could he do to him what he did to MVP? Do you think but even more?
It would look like Bilal Muhammad versus
right. Okay, I don't think
he would he would just get taken down a whole bunch. He's certainly not going to win. The striking exchanges are going to look very similar to the MVP fight. Like, he's not going to get the better of Wonder Boy in the striking. No chance. But he will just tackle Wonder Boy. And I know Wonder Boy's takedown defense is better than a lot of people give it credit for. He stayed on his feet against Shavkat a lot longer than people thought he would. But Gary's just going to get him down and grind him out for 30-26 or 30-27 or something like that. So I don't love that fight. Give Wonder Boy Buckley, man. Like, I'd be down for that. That's probably the fight you do. Ankle eye versus Pereira, like I said, sure. I just don't know if it happens.
Mike, did you see Terrence's comments?
We will get there.
Chat? Okay, because we have to talk about this. We have to talk about this thing that I meant to mention earlier. I totally forgot.
Yuri 85 versus Strickland or Rob. Terrence Leverett is the biggest driver of the Yuri to 185 movement right now.
People were talking about it last night. Apparently, I don't know if I saw someone say, at least in our comments, I think if you'll scroll to the top of these comments, someone said he said it to Czech media. I don't know if that's true, but either way, there were a lot of people, fans.
He said it after the Rakic fight.
He said after the Rakic fight
as well.
A lot of people were asking, just messaging and replying to him on Twitter, like, are you going to drop to 185? Can you drop to 185? I'm assuming he has in the past, right? I don't know. I couldn't find on Tapology any listed 185 fights. I imagine if he has, it was a long time ago, if ever. Maybe not as a pro. I'm sure he could do it. He's a big 205er. I'm sure if he lost some muscle mass, he could probably do it. I don't want to see him 185. I just feel like that's not ideal for him. But this is a situation where he's lost twice to the champ. And I get it. It's suddenly such a tall climb ahead. But light heavyweight, there's so much fluctuation. I feel like if he sticks around, eventually Alex will either leave or lose. And he could get another title fight against a different opponent in the future. So
sure could
probably stay there. But I understand the middleweight chatter. I don't trust that he could do it and be at his best.
Yeah, if he was in another division, I would look at it, but light heavyweight is just not good. And if Pereira does go up to heavyweight, Yuri's probably getting a title shot.
There you go.
Like, he's right there. Pipe versus Kopylov. Kopulov's booked against Bruno Ferreira. Yeah, a lot of people are asking what should be next for MVP. I like this fight. This is what I would go with.
That's really
MVP
good.
versus Randy Brown. It's kind of the position he's in. He's going to have to fight a surging dude who's looking to break through. That's really where he's at right now. We'll take a couple more. Yuri versus Hill from John Ray. Lopez of Aloy of 2. Dolidze Cannonier. Chiasson versus title fight loser. Wow. Okay. Like it. Garry versus Burns, Brady winner.
Just the thing about Lopez of Aloy too. I know we've said Aloy probably doesn't take that. I will say though, he does talk a lot of shit about Diego for a fight that he supposedly doesn't care about anymore. Every time Diego fights, Movistar tweets like, "Oh wow, they're really pushing this guy whose best moment is a loss to me or something." He's done that more than once. He did it again last night. He's done it more than once. I agree. I don't see why he'd want to fight Diego again, but he does talk about Diego a lot. So I don't know if it's totally impossible that they do fight again.
Love Jiri can't make 185.
And then
MVP versus Ian, 5 rounds MVP wins. I don't know if that's true.
Maybe, I don't know. People saying Jiri at heavyweight. I'm like, yeah, again, light heavyweight is really just perfect for him. Like it sucks that he's lost the champion twice, but really he's a 205er. He's not quite big enough for a heavyweight. He's way too big, I think, for middleweight to do that comfortably. He should just stay at 205.
Ige versus Murphy, sure.
Yeah, good fight. Great fight.
Cub versus Caceres. Look, folks, this is it. The time is now. The time is now. You have to book the fight. You have to book Cub Swanson versus Uriah Faber. You have to do it. Like, there's just nothing else. They both want it. Faber hasn't fought in forever, but they both want to fight each other. Let's just do it. Cub would drop to 35 to fight Faber. Do it at 45. Who cares? A throwback to WEC. And just have these two dudes fight each other. It'd be like a double retirement fight. Be cool as hell. Let's now's the time. Now's the time to do something like this. You know, come on. Who'd you guys give Oliveira next? Top 15 ready?
No, I know he has a lot of experience.
Close.
Yeah, he has like 20 something pro fights. I get it. He's one of those guys like, oh, you see, he's only 2-0 in the UFC, but he has a ton of pro experience and for some good promotions too. So really, he does have the resume of a top 15 guy. He just hasn't beaten a top 15 UFC guy. Where do you go with Loke Dog? I have him just outside the top 20 now. If we can get Montel Jackson in the cage, yeah, great matchup.
Montel Jackson.
That's a lot of good fights.
Feely versus Barboza?
Saeed Nurmagomedov, maybe? I don't know. Feely and Barboza. Yeah, I like that. It's a good matchup. Love it. Jeff
Neal versus MVP, sure.
Mm-hmm.
Samoa's top 15 until yeah, he's not. What's that? It's three in a row for Ricky Simone. Tough scenes. All right.
He did not look right. He does not look right now. We know Ricky Simone. I don't know what was going on.
Dude's been battling for a long time, man.
It could just be that.
He's been doing this shit forever. He's been wrestling forever. Yeah. Dude's been a competitive combat athlete for ever and ever and ever, man. So
take some time off.
Sort of the end
Ricky,
of the line.
take a year off. I want to see him take a year off.
A year off. Okay. Well, we're going to take the rest of today off. We are done. I have to drive back home. Hopefully the traffic is not as brutal as it was getting here, but I got to go. Shout out to all of you who checked out the watch party. Shout out to Jed Michoud for hosting the UFC Apex version of the watch party. We had a great time. We appreciate that. Shout out to all the matchmakers. Obviously no show next week. No, we're not doing an Ask Us Anything because we're just not doing it. We did the last time there was an off week. Maybe we'll do it the next time. The next time you will hear from us will be 2 weeks from right now, following UFC Denver, which right now has 8 fights on the docket, which is crazy. Actually 9 technically. 8.5 is really the correct answer. Rose Namajunas versus Tracy Cortez, we first reported, now officially the main event for that card after Macy Barber was forced to withdraw. Co-main, Santiago Ponzinibbio versus Muslim Salikov. We have Gabriel Bonfim versus Angelosa. Cody Brundage versus Abdul Razak Al Hassan. Christian Rodriguez versus Juliana Rosa. Luana Santos versus Maria Agapova. Viviane Araujo versus Jasmine Jasdavicius. Josh Fremd versus Andre Petrosky. And ladies and gentlemen, Drew Dober versus the scariest fighter of all, TBD.
Oh my gosh.
TBD.
Official. It was on the graphic. It was on the graphic that they showed last night. That fight is official. TBD versus Drew Dober. Shout out Lydian84 for the big super chat. Thank you, Lydia.
Just do the Nazim Sadikov fight. Like, what are we doing here? They're both in the same weight class. They both lost opponents. Just throw those friggin' dudes in there.
Makes too much sense, Mike. Fun. Mike, you're making too much sense. Stop talking sense.
By the way, I'm going to throw this out there because I like this idea. Joe Piper versus Kamrov.
J-Dash.
Good stuff.
John Ray. Shout out to John Ray. Happy Canada Day, everyone. Yes, on July 1st. And happy July 4th to all you guys in the U.S. But yeah, we got Canada Day coming up on Monday. So shout out.
Yes. Independence Day coming up next week as well. What do we got here? Ariel Helwani reporting last night was the final fight on Andre Arlovski's UFC contract. He will not be re-signing with the promotion, I'm told, but he's still planning on fighting elsewhere.
Of course,
there's your answers. I assume that was the case. But thank you for watching. Back in 2 weeks right here on to the next one, the podcast. You guys are the best. We love you so much. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, everybody.